Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. So, today we're going to look at importing, organizing, and editing in Premiere Pro. So, first off, you just created this project folder, or you've already created that, and you just created this project in Premiere. But now it's like, what do I do? So, before we get into any of the tools or anything like that, first thing that we want to do is go down to this panel down here. And what you may have is, if you notice, these are some different workspaces, which are really just different ways of organizing the screen. We're going to be in the editing workspace. And also, if you don't see this up here, the learning, assembly, editing, all of that stuff, but you want to get to the editing workspace, you can also click on Window, Workspaces, and then click on the proper workspace for you, which should be editing. All right, so with that said, we're going to go down to this project panel right here that I'm scrubbing over. And if you notice, it has a few different tabs. All right, a few different tabs. So over here, we have the history tab, which keeps the history of like every move that you make in here, just in case you got to go back to something. You got markers. We'll talk about that later. You have effects, so different effects that you can get into over here. And I won't collapse anymore, and I won't expand anymore, but I'll collapse. You got info. It gives you different info about clips. You got libraries. Again, that's something I'll explain later. And you got the media browser where you can find files to import on this computer. But the one that we're going to focus on is the project panel. So down here, we're going to do this. So first off, we want to create some bins. So at the very least, you see this little file folder that's called a bin. And if you click on it, it'll create a new bin and the word is already highlighted so you can start typing. So this first bin is going to be called sequences. All right, and I'm gonna hit enter or return after that, and that saves it. So right here it's highlighted. And for sequences, your sequence is your timeline, which is what you edit in. So now that I have my sequence, I want to create a new timeline or sequence. So with that, I could go up here to file, go to new, and I could click on sequence, wherever that may be, which is right here. So this is one way of creating one, to go to the new sequence screen, but also you can hold down command and press the letter N, and that'll take you there as well. This is called a keyboard shortcut. So with that said, I'm gonna click on here, and now I have my sequence screen up. So in the previous tutorial, what I had you do is I had you copy the name of this project as you were creating it on the new project screen. So here is where you would paste it. So whatever name that your sequence is the name that it's going to default to whenever you're exporting your project into one video to send out wherever you need to. So here, I'm going to hold down control and click this area, and I can click on paste, and my name, Hoko Silent Film, is there. Or what I could also do is I could hold down command on the keyboard and press letter C one time, and I'm going to do that right now. Oh, I'm sorry, that was the copy command, but command and V, and it would do it. All right. So with that said, those are the two ways to do that. So after I have that, it should be on this setting, 1080p, 24 frames per second, which again, that may be Greek to you or something that you don't understand, but I'll go over that later. And I'm gonna click OK. So there we go. I got my timeline right here where I'm editing stuff, and I have my sequence. So the other folder that you need is gonna be in our Finder. So I'm gonna click on that, and we're gonna go back to your project folder. So again, you got your content folder, your exports folder, and your project files folder. So we're gonna focus on this content folder. I'm gonna drag it down here in this project panel, and as I drop it, it's going to create that folder or bin. And you notice right here, I created a folder for the Hoko Parade. It has that, and it has my footage. All right, so again, I dragged it, and I dropped it in here, and it of course put it in there, and that is called importing. All right, so far what we've done is we have created bins for each of our media and also each of our respective sequences, so that it's important to keep everything organized. Also, as we created, or we've also imported. So again, I dragged this content folder in here to import it. So that was importing it. And since it noticed the folders, it made bins for it as well. So that's good. And the last thing is editing. So you have everything organized and you're ready to edit. So a simple way of editing is I'm going to double click on this content folder. It opens that up. And so my footage is in the Hoko Parade, and we'll open that up. Boom. So right here, I got my footage. So there's a few different ways to put this footage in this timeline. So number one, I can simply drag it and drop it in there. And also with this, it'll ask to change whatever settings. We're going to click on keep existing settings, and I'll explain this later. But with that said, there you go. I got my footage in there, so I could drag each of these in there like that. Cool. So I'm going to undo that by holding down Command and pressing the letter Z. So another way of putting your footage down here is, let's say that in this first clip, as you notice visually as I drag it back in, it's very long. It's about a minute and maybe 12 or 13, or I'm sorry, a minute and 50 something seconds. Maybe I don't want all of that in there. So as I undo that again by holding down Command and pressing the letter Z one time, after I double clicked it, this icon, as you can see, it's up here. So right here, what I'm going to do is I can scrub through it with this playhead right here, which I'm going to move that back and forth, and you'll hear the chatter from that. Right? So right there, what I can do is I can choose exactly where I want to start playing it. So if I don't want this whole clip and I want just a piece of it, let's say that I want to start it right here. I'm going to press I. So again, you notice nothing is highlighted right here. I'm going to let that bell ring. So I'm going to press I and notice what changes. So there we go. I pressed I, and what happened is we made a starting point or an end point. So notice the I is for end. All right. So now I want this clip to end about right there. So to make it end out of this long, almost 2-minute clip, I'm going to press O to create my out point. So as you look at this right here, we have a starting point or an end point, and then at the end of it, we have an out point. So now that I have this small little piece of this 2-minute clip, I can then put that down here. So the long way of doing it is I can drag this, literally the image, it's going to come down here, and I can put that in there. And again, I'm going to click on keep existing settings, and I can do that. Or the easier way is it's going to pop up down here as I press the period, right? So I press that and it goes down there. But you notice it's going wherever this marker is right here, right? So this is called an overwrite. So that means that it doesn't matter whatever else is already down here. Wherever this cursor is, it's going to put whatever footage over that, like over it to replace it. On the other end, I'm going to press the period a few times to just have these clips down here. And I'm going to show you an insert. So over here, I highlighted all of these by clicking and holding this dark area. I'm dragging up over these clips. You notice the shape that's being made that I'm jiggling around. I do that, and it highlights all of those. Then next, I'm going to hold my control key, and I'm going to click one of these highlighted clips, and we have these options that pop up. So from here, I'm going to change the color on it because I want y'all to see what an insert is doing. So I'm going to change these to violet. So there we go. And I'm going to drag this playhead, or actually I'm going to press the up arrow, and it goes to the beginning of this clip right here. And I'm going to press the comma. So you see right here, as I inserted it, it didn't delete any part of these clips in the timeline, but it just pushed these clips over. All right, and that is an insert. So imagine you've already edited a few of these clips, put in the pieces that you wanted, but you're like, wait a minute, I want to insert this piece right here. Besides having to highlight everything and move it over and then put it in there and then close this one up and then highlight this and close that. Instead, I can just press the up arrow, go back to wherever I want to insert it, and press the comma, and it's right there without losing any footage. So that is inserting. So with that said, going back over what you've seen today, in this project panel right here, we created these bins. We created our sequence. We also imported our footage, and we inserted footage, and we also did the overwrite as well. So with that said, I and O for those in and out points. So go over that a few times, and I'll see you in the next tutorial where we're going to look at titles and color and also exporting. See you then.